Money Mom. Let's talk about why everyone should have a Roth IRA, including you. So, a little more about me. I'm Nancy Piccioni, a freelance writer and a money coach. I help people get better with money, and my website is yourmoneymom.com. What I'd like to go over today are just some general information about IRAs, Roth IRAs more specifically, talk about how they're flexible and inflexible in the right ways, contribution limits and objections, and then I think in another video I will show you how you can actually set up a Roth IRA. Let's keep going. So first, let's talk about IRAs. An IRA is just an acronym for individual retirement account. They've been incentivizing you to save since 1974. They're actually relatively new. They haven't been around forever, but it's a way for individuals to be able to set aside money for their retirement, outside of a pension or some other Social Security, other types of accounts. The benefit of the IRA is money goes in before tax, so you're reducing your taxable income in the year that you put money into it. And then the contributions and the growth are taxed at withdrawal. So it just allows people to save on some taxes now, but they do have to pay tax eventually. And then the other thing about IRAs that is important is that you are required to take distributions at some point. It used to be 70, but very recently, or 70 and a half. Recently, it was changed to age 72. So someone who is age 72 or older must take required minimum distributions every year from their IRAs, and then at that point pay the taxes on them, which can be good or bad depending on what tax rate they're in at the moment. All right, now let's talk about Roth IRAs. So the Roth IRA was started in just a little more than 20 years ago. In 1997, it was co-sponsored by Senator Roth of Delaware and Senator Packwood of Oregon. So poor Senator Packwood, it's named after Senator Roth, obviously. It was originally called the IRA Plus because of some of the interesting benefits that we'll talk about. So also the money goes in after tax. That's very important, that you pay taxes on your income and then you put money into a Roth IRA. But then the great part about it is that the contributions and growth are never taxed. And also there are no required minimum distributions, which gives it maximum flexibility. So let's talk about those benefits, why it is good for everyone. So it's flexible in the right ways, inflexible in the right ways. It offers tax-free growth, and it's especially ideal for young earners. All right, so it's flexible because the money you put into it, your contributions, can be taken out anytime. So if you put $10,000 into it, and it grows maybe a lot more than that, you can always take out the $10,000 without any penalty. Now you can't ever put it back, so it's not a good idea to do that, but you can actually do that. The other thing about the flexibility is it's never taxed, so deciding when to take the money out isn't dependent upon what your taxes might be that particular year. And again, as I said, there are no required minimum distributions, so you could take out a lot one year once you're eligible, or not too much in other years, or just leave it there as something to hand down to your kids. All right. It's also inflexible in the right way. Really, the whole idea of retirement savings is to kind of tie up money so you can't get to it. It would be really easy for most people, I think myself included, to spend money if it were there. Like if all our retirement money was just in a checking account somewhere and you could easily access it, it might be really tempting or easy to do that. Having money set aside in this way, it's kind of locked up. That's a good thing for us. So as I mentioned, you can take out the contributions, but the penalties on taking growth and earnings before 59 and a half, you have to pay penalties for that. So it's like a forced savings. The other inflexibility is there is a 5-year rule. So if you once you open a Roth IRA, then the clock starts for 5 years. But if you roll money over into a Roth IRA, or you don't start one until you retire, you can't actually take money out of it. The the contributions and growth until it's been 5 years. It's kind of a minor rule, but something for people close to retirement to be aware of. And then also you can't contribute to a Roth IRA unless you have earned income. Although non-income earning spouses can be still put money in a Roth. We'll talk about that in a sec. Okay, contribution limits. So for 2021, the total amount you can contribute is $6,000 a year, or $7,000 for catch-up, as they call it, for those over 50. And the amount you can put in a Roth IRA is reduced for those making more than $125,000 a year. There are ways around this. It's called a backdoor Roth. Maybe I'll do a video on that at some point. But it is sort of annoying that way, that if you are a higher earner, when you could benefit from this, you are ineligible for putting money in like a normal way. And then again, the contribution limit is you must have earned income. And then the exception, of course, is for spouses. So if there is a non-income earning spouse, someone staying home with the kids, and a working spouse, the couple could theoretically, if they're over 50, put away $14,000 after tax to grow tax-free forever into a Roth IRA. All right, so what are some objections to contributing to a Roth IRA? And this is mostly just to get you to really consider, maybe I should just start one. I don't have to put tons of money in it, but maybe I can do that. So what are some of the objections? First, too young. Well, that's exactly the wrong objection to having a Roth IRA, because young people are in a very unique position to give themselves tons of flexibility and freedom by putting money into a Roth IRA at a very young age, because it can grow and grow and grow, and taxes are never due on it. Also, for young people, they often, don't have a lot of expenses. They may still be living at home, and they may have a job where they're earning money but not have a lot of expenses because, they live with their parents and get a lot of things taken care of. Another objection to a Roth IRA is that you don't make enough money. And certainly if people have high interest credit card debt or lots of student loans, they might not want to be fully funding a Roth IRA. At the same time, I do think it's a good idea for people to consider it, because putting money in a Roth IRA tax-wise makes the most sense when you don't make as much money, because first of all, you don't make too much income to contribute to a Roth. And then also you're in a lower tax bracket. And so the money that you've paid in taxes and then put in the Roth IRA is not as high as it would be if you made more. Also, another objection to a Roth IRA is you already contribute to your employer plan, a 401k or a 457 or other types of accounts. And anybody can still contribute to a Roth IRA, even if you have a 401k at your employer. Another objection, which I touched on a little bit there, is that you're paying off debt, that you have student loans or high interest credit card debt. And I would agree that I think that would not be a huge priority, but I think putting in even a small amount or getting into the habit of having a Roth IRA and funding it can be very helpful for people then once they are out of debt. Okay, so next time I'm going to talk about how to open and fund your Roth IRA, and we will talk about it then. Final thoughts. I hope this may have convinced you to at least explore this option for you. Thanks for watching.